We cannot celebrate Asian Pacific American Heritage Month without discussing community activism. And we've been talking with a local organization who's made it its mission to bring cultural awareness to us all. And today we have Edgar Lin, a member of Elevation. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Hey, you know what? When we talk about awareness, it's so important for us to know, as far as Americans, we're all in this together. Tell us a little bit of history. Bring us up to date with just some of the important Japanese Americans that we should be recognizing and be aware of.
Sure. I like to talk about Korematsu versus United States. Korematsu is a case involving a 23-year-old young man, a U.S. citizen named Fred Korematsu, who defied the order to go to the internment camp. He said he felt like he didn't do anything wrong, and if anybody did wrong, it was the law. He felt the Japanese people were targets of racial discriminations, and actually records later reveal that they were, because there were no information from the U.S. intelligence community that U.S. citizens of Japanese descent had any more risk of spying than any other groups. He was arrested, convicted. Eventually, he was sent back to an internment camp. And the U.S. Supreme Court actually upheld the internment of Japanese citizens as within the powers of the executive branch, citing real fears of sabotage and espionage by the Japanese people. Now, just mind you that America was also at war with Germany and Italy, and neither groups were suffered wholesale removal into prison camps. And this case was seen as a very dark stain in American history, and I think it's important for us to remember that.
Definitely, definitely, especially coming from California. I'm very much aware of that. And he was given one of the highest honors, too, after many years after this happened, correct?
He was. The wild thing about the Korematsu case, it's that it's still law until it was somewhat recently overruled in passing in the Muslim ban case. So it strangely makes its comeback somehow in all these new developments.
Oh, most definitely. Most definitely. Now, you brought up the internment camps, and it's unfortunate that sometimes we don't understand how that can have a negative impact on people. But it apparently appears that one of our justices, Justice Bradley, yesterday used that term to describe our safer at home order in regards to deciding why it should be unconstitutional. And a very famous actor, unfortunately, had to shame her in Twitter.
Well, yeah, before we get into that, we have to really understand what was the Japanese internment camp. It
Okay.
was a forcible removal within days of 120,000 targeted people of Japanese descent with as little as 1/16 Japanese blood. Children were not spared, families were separated. And if you were an orphan child with Japanese blood, you were removed into this concentration camp or internment camp. People lost their belongings, their homes, their businesses. Food were rationed. There was terrible medical conditions, and it resulted in 2,000 people dying. And it's called a relocation center, but really it was a prison because it was guarded with barbed wires with armed individuals. So I think a lot of Asian Americans echo George Takei's sentiment. Korematsu has always been used to sensationalize. And even if you, as I mentioned earlier, in the Muslim ban, a person from the administration cited to Korematsu as precedent, as a power that the executive branch has to discriminate against people. So honestly, I was a little bit shocked about the written decision where a Wisconsin justice doubled down on Korematsu comparison, using that as a comparison for safer at home. And I understand it was used to illustrate the limits of government authority, but it's tone deaf. It's not very good analysis for many reasons. Korematsu was about equal protection related to racial discrimination.
Sure.
So look, if Wisconsinites were being ushered by armed governmental agencies to quarantine concentration camps, I think it would be a completely appropriate comparison, but we aren't.
Right.
So I thought it was a poor choice and really just kind of not very good legal analysis.
Well, hopefully it was a teachable moment, and I appreciate the education, the history lesson you gave us today, and hopefully it will get our viewers to search out more information about our neighbor, our brother, our friend, Asian Americans who are being celebrated this month. Thank you so much, Edgar, for joining us.
Thank you.